And once again, we are live with Crone's Crucible. We left off at an interesting place last week. We had quite a few interesting things going on. Alex got himself a sword with a kind of a mind of its own, and the team decided to go explore this tower on the lake with the suspicion that it was the tower that Esmeralda de Avenir was talking about, that it could very likely be Rictavio's tower, where he went and hid after the disaster at the Festival of the Burning Sun. Rictavio, they remembered as she was talking, had spoken to them about Rictavio being a cover name, as he was this supposed carnival master, traveling carnival that he had, and the tiger was supposed to have been part of that. But as the when the tiger got out during the Festival of the Burning Sun, you realized there was more to the tiger. He was controlled by Rictavio in ways, and things were said and so forth. You realize there was a great deal more to the tiger than met the eye. Rictavio managed to escape on the tiger and disappeared off into the forest. And until the team met Esmeralda at the Abbey of St. Markovia, they didn't know what had happened to him. And she spoke about Van Richten, and some bells went off in the heads of some of the party members as they realized he had spoken about this other name of Van Richten. And so, suspecting that this is where he was hiding, they went to his tower and encountered a few traps and various things that were going on. Vlad, the cleric, decided to just go up and rap on the door, which ended in him having very frizzy hair when lightning struck. He not to be undone, he decided he did it wrong and went up and tried to turn a symbol that was on the door, which didn't work, but wound up with him getting struck with lightning a second time. So it was a very interesting evening to be had all the way around. Anyone have anything to add about what went on, or any comments about anything that is going on in your life or the story? Yes, Dirok was the one who looked at the thing on the door that Vlad had tried to turn, and realized there were symbols on it that were in the shape of people standing in various positions. And so he proceeded to go in order of the way that it was shown, so that he would do the same positions, and by golly, it worked. The door unlatched and swung open, and they were able to go inside. The door had no handles or anything, so it was a little tricky to get in there. So, let me get the videos. When the DM smiles, it's already too late. Or when she gives an evil laugh. Yeah, I was doing a lot of smiling last week too. Too bad you didn't take up on all the possible things that could have happened to you, but it was fun. And I've got one picture here that is refusing to go into the slot. And once I get that, we'll be set. Okay, just about got it. Almost ready to switch the video. Gee, I wish I had a tech crew to be doing this behind the scenes, but I don't. Yeah, absolutely. We just are our own tech crew, sound crew, everything in the world that can get interesting sometimes. if I do this, it ought to show Apo's face instead of just his eyeglasses. And Apo's camera keeps bouncing around, and I have to keep adjusting it. Oh, that's typical. We have several dads with that problem. We just go on with it when kids cry. Maybe you can just like poke him a little under the chin with his finger. Okay. Apo, you seem to keep sliding to the left. I keep expanding it to the left and you slide to the left. I'm going to slide you again. Almost got you. All right, let's try that and swap it over to the videos and we'll see how we're doing. Okie doke. And my video's all crazy. My. Oh, it's so much fun. Okay, that's a little better. I have a new overlay this week, so I have to reposition everything, which is not something I can do very well until I actually go live, so I'm doing the best I can. Anyway, here we are at Van Richten's tower, and what had happened, the very last thing is they ended last week, after puzzling out these four clay golems that were in the tower, standing around a 5-foot square, 5 foot on a side, wooden platform. It dawned on them that probably these chains coming out of the ceiling were lift chains, and the golems were somehow or other magically capable of lifting the platform up to whatever floor somehow, once you figure out the commands. And 5 feet is not enough room to hold very many people on. Possibly 3 at maximum is about all you could expect to get on. But as some of you stepped onto the thing, POTUS's summoned horse basically gave a neigh, indicating that there was someone coming. And POTUS saw a visual image of a woman kind of hugging herself, running across the causeway area that enters into this little island area where the tower is. And she had some very odd boots on that, with this hazy image that the horse was able to give, certainly sounded to a POTUS like it might be Esmeralda herself. They had lost track of her at the Abbey, and everything that had happened at the Abbey happened out of their sight, and they have only a hazy idea of what may have gone on there. So there's a lot of questions they want to ask Esmeralda, because some things went on up at the Abbey that they didn't get to see. So as we start tonight, the door has just swung open, and there's a curtain that separates where they're standing from the actual door, and the curtain begins to billow out as air comes in, and you hear a woman's voice, a familiar woman's voice, who says, "Who is here?" Yeah, most that can be standing on the platform would be 3, but no command has actually been given to the golems yet. It does, yes. All right, so Deer Duroc is on the list. Sylvia is on the list, and who else? Okay, so that's the yeah, that's the initial three. There wouldn't be you wouldn't be able to in a 5 foot square space. You wouldn't be able to squeeze. You'd have to really clump together to get those three on. So you're standing there on the lift, and the curtain bells. What are you going to do with relating to the lift itself, or with the person standing behind the curtain? Yes, it is me, it's Rictavio here. She throws an arm through the opening in the curtain and pushes it aside and stumbles in, and you can see blood on her tunic. She is obviously fairly hurt, and she's got her coat kind of pulled over it, trying to cover it up a bit, but it is clear she is not in real good shape. She she does stagger over to you. That, pot calling the kettle black. Yeah. She looks up at you and she says, I said that I would risk my life if I had to take a chance to kill him. But he was protected by too many. If I could have gotten a clear shot at him, I would have ended his life. That was my plan. She looks at you and laughs. Of course I do. I have not hunted vampires this long without it. And she laughs at Vlad. Are you so easily fooled? You do not know he has many guises. It was, yes. They are one in the same. You can do an insight check. I let me look up what she's got here. I've got to get the particulars of. The uh, the sword wakes up a little bit. It's very hazy in this tower because of what you've noticed is dampening some of the magic, but it sort of imposes itself into Alec's mind and says, "She speaks the truth." Dirok would actually feel like she doesn't look like she's lying about it. She seems very determined. she, yeah, she, as she kind of with she heals up a little bit from what Vlad's able to do with her, and she reaches into an inside pocket of her coat and she pulls out a letter. Many months ago, I took this from House, and she slams it down on a bookshelf next to you. She, she doesn't she doesn't look like she doesn't look like she has a really big sense of humor. She just kind of looks at you and goes, "I stole it from no one except the witch that lived there." Did I think it was a suicide mission? Of course I did. But I also wounded him severely. Not enough to end his life, but I wounded him. Do you know that he has escaped with what I believe to be one of your comrades? The abbot was already handing him over to Strahd. It was why I fired in hopes that I could stop it. The halfling was unconscious he was draped over Strahd's horse, and they took off. That fool, that fool Abbott believes that he can somehow or other end all this evil by giving Strahd everything he wants, and somehow or other he will not want more after you've given him things. Strahd just wants the next and the next. This is true. He well, there are trances and there are trances. He didn't say why the halfling was cooperative, and that's fine. Right. Are you going to look at this piece of paper she put on the bookcase, or is she going to pick it up again? When you open it, the first thing that strikes your eye is the handwriting on the deed that you saw, where there was a deed given to the family in Death House related to Bone Grinder, and that as long as they provided sufficient flour on a deal, that they could have the possession of Bone Grinder. The handwriting is identical to that deed. Vlad would definitely see the similarity between the two. The letter thanks Lady Voctor for her help and assistance over the many years of the longevity of her family, having helped Lord Vasily over these many years, and he's saying basically that she is one of his favored because her family has found favor with him. And it is signed by Lord Vasily, but it is in the handwriting that is identical to the Bone Grinder deed. Vasily von Holtz is his name. Death House? What? Death House? What is Death House? I can't even remember the name of them. I can't. Yeah, it was actually it was you found out somewhere along the line it was something or other manor, but I don't recall what the family's name was. Let's see if I can look it up real quick. Oh, that family. Oh, they have worked with him for, well, their lives were extended to some extent for many years because they worshipped him almost as if he was some kind of god, and they thought that somehow or other they would have great power. So he teased them by granting them longevity of life through various evil means, but it only wound up harming the family in the end. They they were they were crazed with their adoration of the ruler of this land. They thought that he would somehow or other grant them great power and infinite life. It was very disturbing. I'm still trying to find the name of the family, but I'm still not every nothing is coming up here real fast with what it is. Durst, the Durst, the Durst Manor. One of the viewers said vol is a little low right now. I don't know which one he means. Volume. Okay. All right. Well, I've got it as full up there as I can go. So let me see if I can up your volumes directly here on Discord to try and make it better. Okay, let's see if this works better now with the volume upped on Discord so that people can hear a little bit better. Okie doke. Hopefully we've got it better now. And so after you read it, she reaches out and attempts to gently pull the paper out of your hands to take it back. She folds it up and tucks it away again. I wanted to keep this in case I needed proof for anyone of what she was up to, but I know that you have substantially cleared the village of some of its problems. She shrugs and says, "Not many people use it. I feel myself free to use it, but I have been under his gaze for so many years that it no longer bothers me to speak it." she no, she was yeah, she was she was just about 18, was just about what she was. She was only a couple of years younger than her brothers who were in their 20s. But yes. Anyway, Esmeralda Esmeralda kind of stumbles over to the edge of the platform and she calls up through the opening in the ceiling. Van Richten, are you here? And there is no sound answering. And she looks very concerned. You also hear the door automatically closing behind her, behind the curtain, as it tended to do. I use the symbols. I am glad. And she just says, it is good that you did not fiddle around with everything out there. There were some things that could be quite harmful. Numerous things. Yes, the wagon is mine. And what about it? How so? She kind of tips her head and raises her eyebrow. That is for me. That is for me to know. You need to find out. As Esmer, Esmeralda turns to one of the golems and says, "For and return." And the golems all begin in unison to pull on one of the chains that are looped in a circle over a pulley, and they all in unison start pulling it up. The platform begins to rise, and it's very jerky as it goes up. Each time they pull, you practically fall off. It's very unstable, and there are no railings on the side of this platform, so it's very iffy as you go up. Everyone that's on the platform, give me a dex roll, but you don't have to make a very high dex roll. If you are completely clumsy, you might have a problem. Dex save. No, she just commanded them. No, there's 3 on there already. No, Gore. Yeah, Dirok's on there. Yeah, there's already 3 on. And it the thing begins to take you up all the way to the top. As you go past the various floors, you first go past a um, second floor that is very filled with cobwebs. It's got lots of them festooned all over the place, and as you look at it, you can see that the floor is pretty well beat up. There's small uh, uh, strips of wood that are missing and look like they have dry rot and various things in it. It doesn't look like a real good floor when you're on it, but after a little bit it keeps jerking and going up, goes to the 3rd floor, and this floor is just about destroyed. There's almost nothing left of it. And you can see very clearly this opening that you could see from the outside. It's very clearly open to the outside, and you can see the scaffolding outside of it. However, the floor in the whole area there looks like something came in through the wall of the tower and actually landed or broke up the tower floor somehow or on the third floor. So it looks very unstable on the third floor. And finally, it jerks and herks its way up to the fourth floor. And it is the first. Okay. Okay, I think, yeah, go. I guess investigation would be good. It might be survival, but we'll go with investigation. Yeah, you can't really tell. Time in this tower is confusing. It's has you can tell so many of these wards that Vlad and the others talked about that you don't know whether things were recent or a long time ago. You'll see something laying right beside something that looks like it's very dusty and very old, and yet the thing that's new is underneath the thing that's old. So you just can't tell what's gone on with this tower. But the jerking keeps going, and you go up finally to this fourth floor, and there are some candles lit. It's a lot brighter and more lit in this fourth floor, and you can see around it. You can see very clearly that this room is dusted. There's no dust in it. It's clean. It looks like there's been recent habitation. There's a bed in one area. You can smell some mold and mildew, but it seems to like come up from the lower floors. It's not so much in this room. And you can see that there's a desk, a chair, all kinds of things that look much more like somebody's been in it. Even the tapestries look like they are recent rather than old. About the only thing is the windows shutters are broken, but they're on the outside of the windows. First thing you note, are you getting off of the platform? Yes. First thing, first thing you notice is a very decorative suit of armor on like a stand. It does not have a helmet. It's just the suit itself, not the helm. And it's and also a wooden chest that's at the foot of the bed. You are closer now to the ceiling, and you can see very clearly the heavy-duty pulleys that lift these chains. Once you are off, there is a pause for a few moments, and then the platform starts to drop again. So are all of you off the platform? Okay, so the platform slowly, but a little faster, drops back down to the ground floor. Who's getting on this time? Who else? Yep, she steps on and goes up with the three of you after giving the same command to the golems that she did before. So now the three of you eventually arrive up in the fourth floor room. Yes, yes. Uh, the minute you touch it, it begins to move. And with it has no head or helm, but it raises its long sword and begins to move towards you. Uh, just Dirok and the suit of armor will roll initiative at this moment, please. I need why does Esmeralda have a turn? I didn't roll for her. Okay, anyway. Um, the Dirok has the first move. What are you going to do, Dirok? Roar! Okay, so let's see what we got. Okay, 27. That hits. I mean, there'd be very few things it didn't hit. So it, let's see. Okay, he takes the full damage. That one misses. It just clangs on the side of the armor. And it, and at this point, Sylvia's call that she called out goes down the hall, and Esmeralda goes, "Who in the world started that thing off? Tell it to stop in the name of Khazan." And the statue swings at the one who touched it. If it ever rolls, there we go. And it misses rather badly. It doesn't. Yes, it does have 2 attacks. Okay, let's do one more. And 15. What's your armor class? It misses. And uh, your turn again. Let's see. Let's have Sylvia do her action here. Yeah, I'll just put you in as a 0 after the armor. Whoops. I don't know where the 24 came from. I had you as a 0. You went after the, yeah, you went, I'll give you a 1. It doesn't matter what you are because you just go after the armor. Okay. Sylvia was going to do something. Did she say the words or what did she do? It is your turn. That's the 24 kept shifting it around. So I got it back in order. But anyway, yeah, immediately the armor like creaks to a dead stop in it's lifting its sword to strike and it just freezes in midair with its sword held and doesn't move from that position. That does not hit. That doesn't hit either. Yep. And because you didn't hit it, it remains unmoving and does not do anything. Your your yeah, Victor's up there on the 4th floor, so he would see it. What is Victor doing? No, I'm not going to say it's advantage because I'm just going to consider it like it was on the very first thing when you went up and started fiddling with it. It's just a matter of whether you're touching it or not in this case. Well, I thought he was I thought he was going to turn into a bat and fly up into the rafters and just hang there. You're on the way up, and because we're now in turn order, it's like slow motion. Yeah, and little by little, Dirok, if you want to make a couple more turns. Oh, and Victor wants a turn in this. Okay, so let's see. Let's put it. Victor, go ahead. What are you going to do just before Sylvia's doing all her rattling of Khazan? There's yelling and there's clanging, and Sylvia yelled down that the armor was doing something, and Esmeralda yelled back up with the command. um, all right. And about now, I would say your eyes are up just above the level, and you're like looking up, trying to see what's going on, and you're looking up at the at Dirok's feet in this suit of armor above you in this octagonal room. And all right, let's just go ahead. Let's just go ahead and put the rest of you on the initiative order so that I know who's doing what when. And I need this. Um, let's get her on the initiative order. All right, so Vlad, just so that we know what you're saying or doing, roll your initiative, and that's all that's on the list at this time. So that'll work. She rolls a 17. All right, we're back at the top. Let's see. Yeah, get up. Yeah, that'll we'll know what's going when because this now everything is in slow mo now because we're in turn order. So I can find out if he's getting on the lift or whatever because it's going to be a little hard for him to get up there because the lift is just going to be barely moving in real time since we're doing the yeah. All right, so Sylvia continues to chant her Kazan thing. Dirk, what are you doing this time? It hits for 8 damage and it comes to life again. as Esmeralda's mind, yeah, yeah. You you haven't used anything since you traveled from Crest, so you're the only thing that has happened is the damage really that you guys took from the door. So that's about it. The animated armor is looking really dented from that last spear attack. And as Esmeralda's head comes above this, she screams, "Will you stop? That is the guardian of the tower! Stop!" And she starts yelling the same words that Sylvia is. So both of you are now yelling it. And the, And so it becomes this whole comedy of errors. The thing roars to life and lifts the sword a little higher and then goes. And Esmeralda, not yet, not yet. Es, Esmeralda does a very acrobatic flip up onto this floor, which she's quite capable of, and she like grabs her, puts her hand on Dirok's spear and tries to hold it so that you cannot hit Vlad. Yes. Yeah, you're about up to your chest now. Oh yes, this room is only like okay. Let's see. See the target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw and your DC is 15. Okay, Dirok, you've got to give me a wisdom save. Yes, on a DC 15. Victor. I could just see this and oh yeah, and with him raging, compelled duel. Look, read what he's got up there. Read what he's got up there. Compelled duel. And suddenly, no, no, no. He listens to Victor. He bas yes. Yeah, he basically turns around and kind of looks at Victor and suddenly thinks Victor is the wisest person he's ever heard. And yeah, yeah, and he kind of looks at his spear and looks at Victor like, uh, why was I attacking this? Okay. So he's like standing there being pulled by his rage and by Victor. So we have an animated armor that's got his sword in the air about ready to strike but frozen. And we've got Dirok. Okay. So the animated armor is not moving. And Alexander, you're kind of stuck down below. What are you doing while you twiddle your thumbs? Meanwhile, me and the sword goes in. Now that he realizes he has a captive audience, he launches into a whole dissertation of Sergei and one of the battles that he was in, and where the enemy soldiers came from, and how they swept down over the hill. And Sergei, he's going into this whole description of this battle that happened like 400 years ago, because Alex can't go. Very good. So that's what you're getting while you're down there. POTUS, the elevator, the lift has now arrived at the upper floor, and you can step off without having to do acrobatics. It seems to be in stasis at the moment. People aren't actively attacking each other. So is he just going to step off and do nothing else? Yes, he's saying, "Hail, hail, Dawn Watch." the the attack. Yeah, yeah. One will walk away. Um, you look around this upper floor, which is actually, you realize, wider than the lower floors. It sticks out from the uppers, and this room is more or less, it's an octagonal room, but if it was a diameter, it's about 25 feet in diameter, more or less. In spots, a little bit more than 25 feet. So you've got enough room for all of you to fit, but it's starting to get a little bit crowded up there. The elevator, as you step off, begins its slow descent now, which is more in real time now that we're not in active combat. So is anybody going to do any further strikes on this? Uh, Esmeralda is holding on to your spear, and Victor is charming you here. So is anybody else going to do anything that's combat? Okay, go ahead and do it. Okay, let's see. Single break or tear, broken chain link. I will say, that it restores about maybe 8 of the hit points that were taken off of this thing. You aren't able to repair. Uh, you aren't able to repair the whole thing, but you certainly make it in better shape than it was. And Esmeralda walks up and lays her hand on the armor and speaks just one word, Khazan. And then she sort of picks it up by the armpits and walks it back towards the stand that it was originally on and puts it back in the corner where it started. Oh, she lets go as she walks it back, yes. Esmeralda, now that she has put the armor back in the corner, she starts looking around the room like she's looking for something. The Khazan was a wizard that built Castle Ravenloft itself. He worked for the Count, and he was given long life. He also he had he tried to find out the way to have unending life, and there were some things that happened to him. He has not returned to his tower in a very long time, and I do not know where he resides now, but I doubt that even today he is truly dead. Like the Count, he has evil means that keeps things alive. He was not, though he knew of it, and he tried to use it. Last I knew, he was searching for the evil powers in the Amber Temple, those powers that Arganvost tried to prevent reaching the Count and his minions. But in the end, the evils of the Amber Temple were utilized by him for his powers. Yes, there's a chest and a desk with a couple of drawers on. Exactly. I have not been up here in a long time, and the chest is new. I do not know what is in this chest. She walks over and she sniffs it and she goes, that is a very strong smell of lavender, I think. It's very perfumey. And suddenly, instantly, the lid of the chest flies open and nothing happens. And you don't go around touching doors. You don't go around touching doors or anything. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Yeah. There is a lavender colored, almost silken looking cloth that is laying over the contents that are in the chest, and all you see is this cloth covering the top of the storage area of the chest. And Epotus pulls the cloth aside to discover a human head. It's a severed head, and it has rather dark hair and features, the best you can tell, because it's a little bit shriveled up, but best you can tell, it looks very Vistani. And Esmeralda gasps. It would come down, and you can get on it now while all this is going on. And what is Alex going to say? But he doesn't know Alex is having trouble. It's just all quiet down there while you're paying attention to this chest. And what is Epotus doing with, oh, alas, alas, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio. She has a mixed expression on her face. His name was Jan, and he was one of my people that betrayed the family of the Burgomeister of Perez. I know Van Richten had a particular hatred of this man, and I believe that he probably has been responsible for his demise, or at least has certainly claimed the spoils of war after he died, whatever it was. Uh-huh. That'll, and I'm answering somebody type something to me. That'll work, Alex. You can do that. Um, you you want to? I don't remember what you did before on the corpse you were talking about. What did you do? With the stake? Okay. You can stab this with your silver sword if you want. This this thing looks very dead, although remarkably well preserved. And give me a, I think the only thing that would probably apply, actually, give me a history check. Um, and if Vlad wishes to do it because of skills that he's got, he can have advantage. This is more of a lore check. And so, yeah, both of you recognize that this the the features have a very waxy look to them. You can tell it was a living being. It's not like it's made out of wax, but the skin has taken on a slick, waxy look, and you can tell that there are some embalming oils that have been applied to the skin to keep it from deteriorating. Possibly similar things to what Lady Voctor used, but that it has been purposely prepared to keep it from rotting, and so that he can keep this head. I wonder why he kept it. I suspect that he was perhaps trying to get information. And it's back in the chest. Do you close the lid or very? Yeah, he's giving the illusion that you can hear the sword. Now, are you going to repeat words that the sword says, or are you going to just make up words? Yeah. All right. So you're still down below, and so it would speak out through the voice that you created for it. It would say, it would say for, then return. And are you standing on the platform? Okay, because it was going to start going up without you. Wait, come back. But yeah, yeah. Okay, so it starts up with Alex. Alex is now on his way up. All right, so you have looked in the chest. What else are you exploring in this room? All right, in one drawer you find a folded sheet of paper that looks like it came out of um, uh, some kind of notebook or diary, something of this sort. And it is, as I say, it's folded. Do you open it? And the paper that you open up, and let me actually get the journal up because that's pretty hard to read on there. So I need to actually pull up the thing. I gotta find it. It's what this excerpt says, and obviously it is uh, had something come before it and something that comes after it. But the section that is on this, it says, for more than 3 decades now, I have undertaken to investigate and expose creatures of darkness to the purifying light of truth and knowledge. Here I am named in some circles sage and master hunter, but that I have survived countless supernatural assaults is seen as a marvel among my peers. My name is spoken with fear and loathing among my foes. In truth, this virtuous calling began as an obsessive effort to destroy a vampire that murdered my child and tried to also destroy all of my family. It has become for me a tedious and bleak career. Even as my life of hunting monsters began, I felt the weight of time on my weary shoulders. I'll shrink this a little bit now. Today I am a man who has simply lived too long. Like a regretful lick, I find myself inexorably bound to an existence I sought out of madness and seemingly must now endure for all eternity. Of course I shall die, but whether I shall ever rest in my grave haunts my idle thoughts and torments me in my dreams. I expect that those who think me a hero will change their minds when they know the whole truth about my life as a hunter of the unnatural. Nevertheless, I must reveal here and now that I have been the indirect yet certain cause of many deaths, and the loss also of many good friends. Mistake me not. I do not merely feel sorry for myself, rather I come to grips with a devastating realization. I now see that I am the object of a baleful Vistani curse. More tragically, the nature of this hex is such that I have not borne the brunt of it. Instead, for worse, those who surrounded me have fallen victims to it. I have related the tragic story of how my only child Erasmus was taken by Vistani and sold to a vampire. I explained how Erasmus was made a minion of the Night Stalker, and how it was my miserable part to free him from that fate at the point of a stake. What I have neglected to illuminate before is how I tracked Erasmus's killers or keepers across the land, or how I extracted Erasmus's whereabouts from them. In fact, the Vistani took Erasmus with my own unwitting permission. They had brought an extremely ill member of their tribe to me one evening and insisted that I treat him, but I was unable to save the young man's life. In fear of their retribution, I begged the Vistani to take anything of mine if only they would withhold their terrifying powers, of which I really knew nothing. To my lasting astonishment, they chose surreptitiously to take my son in exchange for theirs. By the time I realized what had occurred, they were already an hour gone. Incensed beyond reason, I strapped the body of the dead young man to my horse and doggedly followed the Vistani caravan through the woods, naively allowing the sun to set before me without seeking shelter from the night. Shortly after darkness fell, I was beset by undead that would have slain me had not their master, a lick, intervened and spared my life for reasons I do not completely understand. He somehow detected me and with his powerful magic took control of a pack of zombies that wandered in the forest. He spoke to me through those mouths of dead things and placed a magic ward against undead on me, then animated the dead Vistana and bade it tell me where I could find its people. Unfortunately, and I say this in hindsight, the plan worked. I found the child stealers, and my unwelcome entourage included a growing horde of voracious undead that could not touch me, thanks to the Licks ward. When I found the caravan, I threatened to set the zombies on the Vistani unless they returned my boy. They replied that he had been sold to the vampire baron Metas. Something inside me snapped. I released the zombies and the entire tribe was eaten alive. Yet the story has not ended. Before she died, the leader cursed me, saying, "Live you always among monsters, and see everyone you love die beneath their claws." Even now, so many years later, I can hear her words with painful clarity. A short time later, I found my dear Erasmus made into a vampire. He begged me to end his curse, which I did with a heavy heart. The darkness had torn him from my loving arms forever, and I foolishly believed that the curse had extracted its entire deadly toll. I wept until an insatiable desire for vengeance filled the bottomless rift in my heart. I attempted to save the village of Berez, my only remaining kin, but only one was I able to save. No, this is the sickness and madness was the abbey. I'm going to copy this and put it in your Discord area so that you have it for reference later. No, the rest of the things are writing implements and this type of thing in the desk. Very ordinary sorts of things, nothing that would catch your attention. A letter opener, a quill, and so forth. The books are rather ordinary books of local history. They record various things, including one book that appears to have been a village registry of deaths. And it just, that's all it's filled with, is just a list until it reached the end of the book, as if it was like a parish death registry or something like this. It's just lots of names of people and when they died. And one of the books is a list of the burgomeisters of the towns and who they were and what their lineage was. There is another one that lists the nobles of Barovia and who they are descended from, and so forth. They seem mostly to be books of lists. You would, how long are you going to search in this book? You skim through a lot of earlier history, but before you are able, just as you are deciding you're going to stop and the others are wanting to leave, you notice there is a heading that says Berez on it. And you have to fold up the book at this point and go because they're getting anxious to leave. You can take the whole book if you wish. Not that I can remember. I imagine he is out hunting, as he often does. He has many things he is looking for. Yes, I would expect he is riding the tiger. Yes, he usually takes the tiger. He usually takes the tiger with him when he goes out. But it has been a while since I have been here. I do not know where he is going these days. Yeah. Technically, werewolves are not animals. They're humanoids, or can be. The DM approves. Okay, so when you say you're going to make an encampment, do you mean inside or out? You arrived here about 1 o'clock. I would say that it has probably only taken you a couple of hours to get this far. So I would say it is probably late to mid-afternoon, maybe 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You would have another couple of hours prior to dark. First question is, are you going to try to swim across the lake, or are you going to go around? I would say that it is about a mile to where they pointed out to where the dip in the mountains was, where the cave existed. The shore you're on, that's why I say about a mile from the longest point, which is where the werewolf den was pointed out to have been, when they showed you on the map. Yes, it's like a mile. Lad, you can hear that through the windows. You don't see anything. No, wait, you do see something, but it's not wolves. You can see across the lake at the narrow point where it's not too far from the tower that there is a man running along the shore in red robes. That crazy mage that tried to kill the count. No, no, this was a wizard who thought that he had enough power that he could take on the count, and he led a bunch of villagers from no. He went into Barovia village, and he told stories to them and made them convinced. He, he Yes, exactly. They were all defeated, and it was heard that they were all destroyed. But I have several times seen this man running through the forest. He appears to have been crazed, by the event, and you cannot communicate with him. He just runs away like a wraith and disappears through the trees, but you catch glimpses of his red robe flitting through the trees. The area where you see him flit along the shore is probably only about a quarter of a mile away. It's a lot closer to you than the werewolf area. Let me give you a glimpse of what he looks like as you see him along the shore. This is what he looks like. Well, from that distance, you wouldn't be sure what you were seeing. You know it's a man. He's got a kind of a beard, and he's running along the lake edge. And after a while, as you look, he disappears into the trees a little further down, kind of heading around the lake towards the werewolf area, but mostly into the forest. Well, we've still got to figure out how you are going around the lake. Let me As you are in the tower, this is about where you are seeing him. And he runs along this more open area of beach and eventually disappears into the woods up this area here. This dark spot right here is the werewolf den. Yes, zoom way in on the tower lake and you'll be able to see these things a lot better. This is the werewolf den. And you saw you saw the guy in the red suit about here, and he ran around the lake as you watched and disappeared into these woods here. Let's see how far it actually is. I was guesstimating from a map. I was pretty close. It's almost a mile. Yep. Well, make a decision. We got to decide what we're going to go. All right. I repeat. Who all is getting water walk? Who all's going around the lake? We need to find out how you're progressing there. Hold on. Hold on. There's too many people talking. Let's start. Let's just start with Victor. Victor's going to go around the lake because, especially moving water, and this has flowing water characteristics. And it is my understanding with the rules that when you shift into a smaller form of animal, you also have their weight. Is that correct? So one could ride the horse and carry Victor. All right, so if POTUS is taking the water walk, yeah, if you were just a horse without riding something or whatever, right? So because we've got six people, seven if Esmeralda decides to come along, that okay. Very good. I'm just saying she might be the gung ho type that might try to come along. So I wanted to get your feel on it, but she would be interested, but would probably be more focused on the vampires than she would be on the werewolves. So that would be reasonable. No, I'll just leave her behind, 'cause in the interest of time. The but what I need to solve is how each of you are getting across. I still haven't gotten a firm answer on how many water walk people can you affect, creatures can you affect? 10. Oh, okay. Easy. I thought you said 3, so okay, easy peasy. You can easily water walk this. It's just a matter of whether, right. So that you would easily be able to walk across the lake to where you need to go. Put him in your bag or whatever. Yeah. All right. So all of you have water walk, and I assume you are going to make pretty much a direct line across the lake towards where the gap was in the forest that was. Okay. All right. So glad glad to have some company at last. All right. And so he like floats above the water, trying with his arms going like this. All right. Uh, Jason, if you attempt to do what you asked me about a while back while I was looking up other things, you would have to give me a dex save or an athletic save, and basically athletics or the other one. Um, yeah, yeah. Basically, you would easily be able to look. She would be able to call the elevator back up for you. She knows the commands, and you would over time be able to get down the things. So as you guys make it across to the other side of the lake, and we're coming up on our end point. So let me show you as you kind of edge out of the lake and into the trees, trying to keep yourself disguised from it. You are able to see this opening that is up the hill from you a ways, and it looks like this. Let's see, it does when I have a ribbon to move it. Uh, They don't. I'll put you on the Abbey for just a moment while I'm trying to get it moved over the rest of the way. And here's the rest of the way. As you look up the hillside, what you basically see is a cave that is just vanishing into darkness with things growing around it. It is intensely dark inside the cave. And from inside the cave, you hear the sound of wolves howling and snarling, and you can hear very strong sounds around you. It sounds like there are quite a few of them in there. And that is where we are going to leave it tonight. Whose plan, however, is what you wonder. Is it Strahd's plan? The Crone's plan? Okay, so this is where you will take up next week is you will start into the cave. And as you reach the edge of the lake and start in, we will declare it as being about 5 o'clock. Overhead, you cannot see moons or sun. It is overcast as usual. In fact, a drizzling rain starts. Which reminds me, we still don't have an official name for Sordy. All right. Thank all of you for tuning in. We had a good little group with us tonight. I appreciated the people who joined us tonight. That was great. And if you have not already seen it, you're welcome to read the article about the uh, the group and its DM in the Dragon Plus magazine that came out this month. It's issue 21 of Dragon Plus magazine for Wizards of the Coast. So enjoy that if you haven't read it yet. And other than that, we will be seeing you next week, we hope. Thanks for tuning in. Good night. Good night, all.